Hey guys, welcome back to Zakari Hikari. My name is Zach, and here we learn about everything related to conscious manifesting, manifestation, and really how to shine your inner light of consciousness to manifest and create the life of your dreams. I wanted to talk today about probably one of the most important aspects of manifestation and creating the life that you want, and that is telling your story. Now, again, in every video, I'm always going to talk about coming from that place of your I am consciousness and understanding that you are the sole operant power and the only thinker within your entire reality. And everything is being reflected from outside of you. That means everyone in your world, even me, I'm being reflected outside of you, but really in my reality, everyone who's watching this is being reflected outside of me. It's kind of a mind trip when you first start to play with this and really try to understand it. But I want to break it down today and really talk about telling your story, but how that affects it on a more literal basis when we're actually thinking of the reticular activating system and how what you focus on is going to create more of that in your own actual reality. Okay? So the first thing I really want to talk about is you need to understand that you are a fully unlimited being. Okay? Nothing limits you. There's nothing that can limit you. You can have anything, anyone, absolutely anything that this life has to offer. You are here for the sole purpose to expand and to know yourself as consciousness. And that's why you can literally create anything. Anything. Okay? So oftentimes we condition our desires, and there's a lot to be said, and a lot of people talk about the subconscious programming and what we pick up as children, we continually create in our lives. And there's a lot of truth to that. But you don't have to hammer into the subconscious like it's this force outside of you. When you come from your I am, you can literally just decide who you are. And then if you can stay with that decision, or at least keep returning to that decision, you will have what you want. So I wanted to talk about a couple clients regarding SP situations specifically today, and how their focus was literally creating their reticular activating system to create problems that were not there. And once I was able to help them redirect their focus and tell the story from the place of what they wanted and having the relationship and the love and everything that they were looking for, they were able to quickly shift back into the amazing relationships that were really always, they were already always there waiting for them to kind of embody, okay? So my first client, I think I mentioned him in a previous video, but he was having difficulties with his fiance, I should say. And basically, when we first started talking, he had mentioned that, oh my God, we haven't talked in a couple days. I'm messing everything up. I think this is it. I really, I think we're going to break up. I was like, hold on a second. Like, hold on. So first of all, let's unpack this on a deeper level. And I gave him, the same coaching that I would give anybody. But basically, he needed to understand that everything in this exact moment, and again, going back to the non-linearity of time, everything is coming from the story that you're telling in this exact moment. So if you're telling the story that you're going to break up, there's so many layers to this. But first of all, you're going to create that because that's where your focus is going to go, okay? However, in the actual 3D moment, oftentimes the story that we're telling creates this kind of lens in which we start to see and perceive the world. So if we think that we are not loved, or we're not worthy of love, or this person said this to us, so they must be this type of person, or they said this, so they must not love us anymore, or they did this, you're going to see everything from that perspective through that lens. It's like a literal colored lens that it saturates your reality. So everything you then focus on, you're going to get a reflection of that. So I sat with this client and I said, well, first of all, hold on. He just looking from a 3D perspective and taking the manifestation side out of it, when really you can never take the manifestation side, but it helps, I think, in the beginning to kind of see how your focus is actually training you to notice things that aren't there. So for him, his fiance had just posted a picture, and it was like one of those multiple pictures. When you scroll to the end, it was a picture of my client smiling, looking super happy. Now, I asked my client, if your fiance was thinking of breaking up with you, would he have posted that to all of his followers, showing how much he loves you? From what I'm seeing, he's showing you that there is no problem and he's absolutely in love with you. And all of these problems that you're creating are in your head because you're telling yourself that you are doing something wrong, that you're messing something up, that you're not up to par with what your fiance is looking for, whatever it might be, that's coming out of you. So I just said, listen, and we unpacked it in a lot of levels, and I'm going to reference this client a few times, but basically, we went back to childhood, we went back to all the limiting beliefs that he picked up as a kid about himself, about the world, about how the world operates. And what we really wanted to do was focus on, of course, shifting your I am awareness. And again, you can say subconscious mind, because again, the more that you think these new thoughts and the more you keep redirecting your attention, eventually it will stick and you will start to predominantly believe these things that you're telling yourself. Okay. But in the immediate story for this exact situation, I said, just see him in your mind, have one scene that you're putting yourself in the first person and he can't get his hands off of you. And he's just showing up lovingly and giving you that love, and you're feeling that love, and you're just in that. You're putting all your senses there. You're seeing him, you're feeling him, you're smelling the room, you're hearing the background noises, whatever it is, you want to incorporate all of your senses and really shift your consciousness to, as Neville would say, you want to wear that like a perfume or a cologne, because you want to continuously be in that awareness. So he did that. And I think we caught up the next day, or he said he was going out for drinks with his friends, and we caught up either the next day or the day after that. I can't remember. And I said, well, what happened? And he said, oh my God, he was just so loving. He was all over me. He just couldn't get his hands off of me. He just wanted to really be with me. And there was no problem. It's like the problem literally never existed, because again, time is not linear. So when you shift your focus in this exact moment of being the version of yourself who is already in that loving relationship, it will then rewrite your past and your future to align it to who you are being right now. Okay? That's the first client. The second client came to me, and they were having a lot of problems with their own relationship. And this client asked that I keep things kind of vague, just because they're not, so comfortable with sharing everything on the internet. But basically, and so I'm not even going to use pronouns to identify, male or female. But this client essentially, it had been a couple weeks since they had really had a lot of intimacy with their partner. And they just felt as though there might have been some distance being created between their partner being at work all the time and things not really, aligning and things not really moving in the physical realm. So basically, when they went to go make a move at the partner, it just wasn't the right timing. And then when the partner later said, listen, I'm just hungry. I just want something to eat. Let me just come back to you after. They just finished work. And basically they just needed a moment to like wind down, have a second. They weren't saying no, they were just saying, listen, I'm really tired. But because of that initial moment of the rejection of the intimacy, my client was then viewing everything as I am now being rejected, and then was creating these stories in their mind that they were now rejected from the fact that they had made the initial advance. And basically, a few hours later, their partner did try to, make a move, but because they had been in that mindset of, oh, I'm already rejected, they felt the trigger coming up within them, and then they wanted to push the partner away, and then they didn't really have the loving moment that my client was originally hoping for. So I kind of unpacked this with them and said, listen, that's because you had already been viewing everything as I was rejected. So you had this mindset and you created this story about your partner that they will reject me. They are not connecting with me. We are not in the place that we're at. But when they took a step back and actually looked at how their partner was showing up for them, it was like they were being the most loving person in the whole world. And then they felt guilty about how they acted. And I had to reassure them, listen, there's nothing to feel guilty about because the past doesn't exist. See it differently in your mind and everything will be fine. And guess what? everything was fine. And they kind of laughed about it, and they're like, oh, I guess I was just acting crazy. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess you were. But that was one hell of a story that you were telling. And it just, the good thing about this is that with both of these clients, when the problem first came up, I was able to step in and kind of help them redirect their focus immediately onto the real situation that was actually presenting itself in the 3D, but also help them to then recreate their story before they ran with the old story and dug it even deeper and believed it even more. Because again, you're not going to believe the new story when you first start telling it, but that's where persistence, and Neville talks about persistence so much. You have to persist in the new story in order for the new story to harden into fact in your 3D. So it's, again, the perception. Once you start creating these stories, you're the one who's creating them. You're the one who's jumping to these conclusions and seeing things in your life, and then you're the only one who's assigning meaning to it. Again, remember, nothing has meaning until you assign a meaning to it. But once you start running with the story, that's when you start to trigger your reticular activating system, and your reticular activating system will operate like a mirror, and it's going to say, okay, you feel rejected? Okay, let me give you more reasons for why you're going to be rejected. Let me create more situations in your life where you're going to be rejected. And that's how you get on this really unfavorable script. And then you start creating a life that you really don't want. So what you have to do always, and I will always, always, always say this, you need to remember, take a breath in the moment, okay? Center yourself, and then remind yourself, affirm about being the I am. Start there. Always start from I am, and then you want to affirm from the consciousness of knowing that you're not creating from this small little me who's trying to pull something out of 3D. That's why people who fall into this, they get really confused, because a lot of teachers talk about the law of attraction. The law of attraction is not, I mean, it's a real thing operating in the law of the universe, but the law of assumption is where you just assume something, and 3D must conform around what you say your story is. But the techniques, the affirmations, none of it has any power unless you're giving it power from the fact that you're knowing that everything is coming from you. You're simply deciding and choosing the life you want. So remember, with SPs, with money, with anything, you're the one deciding and you're the one telling the story. Okay? I just wanted to jump on here today because it was like 3 different clients back to back to back who all were covering themselves in this lens where they were then seeing their reality through this really unfavorable hue that wasn't real. And once they were able to actually take a step back, and you don't even need to take a step back, you don't need to analyze the 3D. I just found that for people, or I find for people, that it can help them in the early stages of this to kind of link their current reality with the metaphysical and kind of see how it's actually reflecting. But you don't need to do that. You just literally need to decide, this isn't my story anymore. This is a story I'm telling. And then every time something tries to trigger you in your reality, you then redirect your focus back. No, that's not who I am anymore. This is who I am. This is a story I'm telling. Okay? Guys, thank you again for sticking by it. Again, if you like what I have to say, if you enjoy this, I would really appreciate any comments. I mean, I'm very new to this. I'm still trying to figure this out, and I'm very passionate. I've studied this for about 5 years now, and I just want to share my knowledge. So if you guys have any suggestions, anything you want me to talk about, any questions, please leave your comments in the comment section below. I'll try to make as many videos about any suggestions as possible and go as deeply as possible. But again, if you like what I have to say, please stick around, like, subscribe. That's how I can get the word out. And I will be having coaching options as soon as possible. If they're not there now, then they'll be coming very soon. If you're watching this at a later date, then I probably edited it and you know how to reach me. So guys, thank you so much. And I hope you have a great day. Bye.